I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're speaking with an amazing author. His name is Jeff Treptow. He has written a book called Eternity for a Mist: Adventures with God Through Jail Ministry. In the book, he chronicles an 11-year journey where a single thought in a church service spiraled into transformative ministry sessions inside the Ventura County Jail. This heartfelt account showcases Christian teachings and revelations as Jeff, alongside inmates, unravels the magnificent depths of an eternal God. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like him by subscribing to our channel. Jeff, great to see you here today on Spotlight. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here, Logan.
I'm always interested in talking to people who work inside a jail or a prison because it's almost a subculture. It's a completely different world, with people being incarcerated, not having their freedom, in some cases having committed horrific crimes. Tell us a little bit about your experience and why you decided to write this book.
Well, to be honest with you, I really didn't want to go into jail. I mean, a lot of times I would tell the inmates, hey, if you asked me 5 years ago, hey, are you going to be in jail preaching the gospel? I would say, you're crazy, never. But there I was, it all started. It is a subculture, and they have a lot of free time, and some of them use it to study the Bible and improve their lives and actually share the Bible with each other. So they come out on a voluntary basis on Sundays. So you get the people who want to go to church. They call it church, even though it's a lot different than church. And they look forward to it because they don't have anything going on other than they're locked in their jail cells all a week or all month. And then they look forward to church on Sunday. And it all started for me, sitting in church one day, had my life together, and realized that the pastor was talking about living life differently, putting God first. And that really changed everything for me. And then a friend at work walked up one day and said, hey, you want to join my jail ministry team? And I said, yeah. And there I was for 11 years going in there and doing what they call church service.
And what was church service?
Well, it was about a 2-hour session, and I didn't realize at the beginning that I'd be going by myself with just the inmates, So I did one session with another guy, and I thought, oh, this is great. It's just two of us in here. And then after that, he says, oh, you're ready to go on your own. And I'm like, what? And there I was just with me and the inmates. I was on a rotation. I would go in on Sundays, either every 2 weeks or once a month for 11 years. And I would just share with them what happened to me. And we would discuss eternity quite a bit, because that's what it was all about, was, hey, where are all of us going to be in eternity? And that became a big topic in jail for 11 years. And
especially with people in jail,
I didn't really intend to write a book, but after I did it, I decided to write a book and document what we talked about for 11 years.
Well, we're glad you did, because it's pretty astounding. Did the issue of hell come up? I mean, when you talk about eternity and you're a prisoner, you got to wonder if you feel like there might be eternal damnation.
Yes, we did talk about that. We talked about heaven and hell, and how we're eternal beings, so we're going to go one of two places forever, either heaven or hell. And that obviously, we all want to go to heaven. And it was a big, I had they listened very intently, and we had discussion. The reason it's different than church is that it's a back and forth question and answer all the time. It's like, in church, you can't stop the pastor and ask a question and raise your hand in the middle of church. But what we did for 2-hour sessions was a discussion. We'd read the Bible, we talk about eternity, we talk about heaven and hell, and then we discuss it. I said, do you guys have any questions? And they do have questions. They did have questions. They wanted to know how to, when they got out of jail, what to do with their lives, how to get started, how to pick up the pieces and move forward and all that. So it turned out to be quite interesting. And, the funny thing is, Logan, is that I learned myself. I went in there thinking I was going to help them, but I ended up helping myself half the time, listening to myself talk and so on.
It
So it
helped
was
you
good for
figure out
me.
your own mind, your own story,
Yeah.
your own situation.
Yeah. We would, my background's in engineering. So I studied calculus, chemistry, physics, science. I worked in aerospace for 39 years. So I was a design engineer, and then I got into very closely in some of the most innovative projects that mankind had. And I got to work with some brilliant people. And I thought I was hot stuff and all that. But when we started going into jail and talking about God's creation, I realized that what he did was so much in magnitudes above what we did. And I felt humbled and go, wow, look what God created. I mean, we created airborne radars, and I worked on satellites. I worked on lasers and different things and thought they were fantastic projects. But when I would go into jail every session, we would start out by looking at the universe, pictures. I had photos of the universe. And that really set me back as far as what I thought I accomplished was really nothing in comparison to the infinite universe that God created. That's what really changed me. It's like, wow, look at this. These are things that are beyond our human comprehension when you look at what God has created, you know.
Yeah.
And
So,
that really
okay.
changed things.
Yeah. I'm sure it did. I'm sure it changed your perspective quite a bit. Even being among those, I'm presuming it's men, only those men in the
Yeah.
jail. When you see them in their situation, it makes you very happy that you have the situation you have, the life you have, the parents you had, that kind of thing, the religious upbringing you had. What do you mean by eternity for a mist?
That is, in the book of James, it describes our life as, it says, what is your life but a mist that appears for a while and disappears? So that a lot of the Jesus and some of the disciples spoke in terms of eternity, and even in jail, that's one reason we discussed it a lot. There's a line that goes across in the rooms where I speak to the inmates, and I said, okay, imagine this line, which is maybe 10 feet long, is eternity, and then there's I could find a little speck on one side. I go, that little speck, that's our lives. I said, our lives is a mist, a vapor, compared to eternity. It's really nothing. And what God says is, hey, you know what? You give me that little speck, I'll give you eternity. And that's what the book title means, eternity for a mist. It's an exchange for, hey, you know what? You give me the mist, God gives you eternity. And it really puts things in perspective because they can see a visual, and this is what it is. And our lives are short. I just went to a funeral a couple weeks ago for a man that was in his 30s. I mean, life is short, and it's like, what do you do with it, and how do you make it the best that it can be by, for me, putting God first, and then everything else falls into place. And that's been so true for me in my life, and that's what I shared with the inmates. I said, hey, you know what? You guys are still young, make the best out of what's going forward. Take that little mist of a vapor and make it into something great where God can turn your life into magnificence, into something spectacular. Not sitting being a couch potato, sitting on a couch watching TV or whatever you're doing. Make life fantastic, because it can be, and that's what God gives you. And that's why the subtitle is Adventures with God, is that my life turned into an adventure. And like, who would have ever thought I'd be talking to you right now?
Right.
But this is the kind of thing that happens now almost on a daily basis for me, which before, nobody wanted to talk to me about anything like this. But here we are, and here you are. And this is what it's all about, is that making life into a spectacular adventure. And that's what God wants for us, and
Wonderful. Let me
that's the kind of things
ask
we
you,
talk about.
Jeff, what do you think people will get out of this book when they read it? Obviously, it's not aimed at a jail audience. It's aimed at the general public. Tell me a little bit about what type of inspiration you'll find within the pages.
Well, first of all, the message is God will use anybody, and I'm a perfect example of that. I'm really just an ordinary guy, right? He's using me to actually expand his message all over the world. You know, the book is being sold in all over. I mean, China, Japan, Europe, Asia, Canada, Mexico. It's amazing, right? Like, so I took a step of faith by going into jail. Then I decided to write a book about it, and now the goal is to get the message all over the world. And it is a message of inspiration, hope, and love. And God will use anyone. All you got to do is put him first, and he'll use you. I mean, in amazing ways that I'm blown away every day. Honestly, Logan, every day something happens now that just blows my mind. I think about his creation, and I think he made it infinite in size so that we could get a picture of what he's like. Like he says, hey, if you want to see what I'm like, look at my universe.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't end. And so that's right in front of us, saying that's what he's like. Right. He's infinite and has no beginning, no end. And he's showing that to us in his creation. And so the message is, put God first, and he'll use anybody. Mm. And I'm a good example of that. Yeah. And he's made my life better in every aspect that you can think of. My marriage and my kids, and my job, everything's improved because I'm putting him first, and then everything gets better, honestly. Why not live a better life anyway? And then you're also doing what we were created to do, and that is to get this message out to the world about how, the magnitude of God beyond the comprehension of our human mind is what it is all about. Yeah. When I see the sunrise in the morning, I mean, I don't know if you can see this, but this is something that we looked at in jail. That little spot right there,
yeah,
that's how big the earth is compared to the sun.
Right.
So when that sun comes up in the morning and when it sets, this thing is a monster.
Right.
And this puts things into perspective. Like, God created that. Yeah. I mean, he put us on this little tiny planet, right? And then in this picture below it, there's the sun, and here's some other stars out there that dwarf the sun. At this scale, the earth's invisible. And this is just, we would look at these formations in the universe that our telescopes are taking, and going, what is that? Like, God's created this kind of stuff out there. It just blows me away at what he can do.
Amazing. It's amazing. I've always been a believer in the pocket watch on the beach theory. If you walk down the beach and you find a pocket watch, you realize it must have a creator. If you look around at the magnificence of our world, you realize it must have a creator. So these 11 years changed your life for sure. I'm sure you changed the lives of many of those men you met with each week for hours. Any chance you happen to know what became of anyone? Did you ever keep in touch or something like that? I know it might be unusual, but I was just curious.
Well, I never really came in touch with people that I met in jail, but I did meet a friend at church, and we were talking. We went to church, and then we also worked out at the same gym, so I'd see him in the morning sometimes, and we would talk, and we started talking about church and Christianity and God and so on. And I started talking about jail ministry, and he seemed really interested in it. He's like, whoa, what do you mean jail ministry? And I said, oh yeah, well, I go into jail and I do the Sunday church services. And he said, I was an inmate. He said, I was in there, and someone came in and started doing church services. And he goes, and I became a Christian in prison, and I got out, and now I've got a job, a wife, children. He goes, my whole life just turned around. So I got the privilege of seeing a turned around life, what happens when somebody gets out. And that was good for me, to see that, and to see that and it's not me changing lives. I mean, I'm just a kind of a tool. It's the God that does the changing. I bring the message, but God's the one that can actually change people's hearts and lives, Exactly. So that was really cool. It was somebody that was a friend of mine that I could see the other side of jail and how his life flourished. And it was pretty amazing, pretty cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are nothing but vessels doing God's will. And you have done God's will. You've done God's work. Jeff Treptow has written a wonderful book. It was called Eternity for a Mist, Adventures with God Through Jail Ministry. For 11 years, he went every Sunday and spoke with the inmates at the Ventura County Jail, met with them one-on-one, answered their questions. He figured out a lot about his own life in the process. He helped them transform their lives in the process. And the work he has created out of these meetings, out of this work, will transform your life as well. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us here today on
Hey,
Spot.
Logan.
Yes,
I just
sir.
want to say one thing. I didn't go every Sunday. I would go either every other Sunday or once a month.
Okay.
So it wasn't every Sunday, but it was quite a bit.
Quite a bit. Absolutely. Well, we appreciate your time here today, Jeff. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Logan. Really appreciate it. You made it very easy or easy to talk to. I really appreciate that.
Thanks so much. I enjoyed our talk as well. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.